right, in this video, we are here with Laura Croak of LC Innovative Logistics, and we're going to be talking about double brokering. So this is actually a newer topic to me, but not to you, because you've been doing this for 15 years, yes. And I know you like talking about it, because basically what the premise of this video is we want to make sure if you are using logistics companies that you're not creating unnecessary liability for your company and issues that may come down the road because of double brokering. So can you give me just a really simple explanation of what double brokering means?
Sure. So I'm going to use the example of I'm the logistics company. Your company hired me to pick up a product at ABC company, and I send in a truck. We'll call it Lion Trucking. Okay. Lion Trucking is saying Lion Trucking is saying basically, okay, yeah, I'll pick that up and I'll deliver it to Buffalo, New York. And then your customer is the shipper, okay? Yep. And that truck basically shows up and it says Dog Company and it's not Lion. So you're like, who is this, basically?
Yeah, the name on the side of the truck doesn't match
with the name. Yep. You sent me a sheet here. It's called a bill of lading for, to hand to the driver. Yep. And it says something completely different. Yep. And basically that can cause an issue because as a logistics company, you're not covered under their insurance. That customer isn't covered. The shipper and the receiver isn't covered if something happens to that truck. I don't know how Dog Company or Dog Logistics is going to get paid, basically. I'm only responsible basically for paying for that carrier that I sent in, and that's not even the right truck.
Now, with the double brokering, so we talked about the fact that it's a liability concern. Mm-hmm. I would think, too, that your costs are probably a little bit higher, too, right? Because you just have an extra middleman in there for no reason, which would be then the Lion Company, right?
Yeah.
So they're just kind of adding some margin to it. Yeah. I feel like I've actually heard this, too, with like just contractors, right? Mm-hmm. Like you might get a roof installed on your house and you hire this company and the employees that are actually up there doing it are just working for another company and they subcontract it out.
Correct.
So
basically what it is.
Biggest concerns though are probably the insurance because you don't know if maybe that secondary company has the proper insurance.
Right. And most of the time they don't have the insurance.
Have you ever actually seen this as in your 15 years of working?
More
How
so
common
now.
Is it?
It's very common now.
Okay.
It's really common now, and it's something that you have to look out for. A lot of the carriers are understaffed. When COVID hit, a lot of the drivers retired and they're not coming back, basically. Okay. So, I mean, you're retired, you now you don't have a staff. So now I'm hiring this company and they're saying, well, I can do it, but I'm going to be charging you more now. Yep. And now that company is going somewhere else to find somebody to do the load for you. Mm-hmm. And it actually happened to us a few months ago where we hired a company to do a load for us. And the guy that was actually hauling the load for us, he basically said, I'm the one carrying the shipment for you and I don't know who's paying me and I'm holding this freight basically hostage. We call it like a hostage freight until you pay me. Okay. And then, my partner and I were like, oh my God, we have to pay this guy. We need the freight to deliver. Yep. So basically, we contact the other company and we say, what happened? We're not paying you anymore. We're paying this guy because this is the guy that is going to be taking it. Yep. But now this driver is underpaid because he's making less than what I paid to the original carrier. Yep. And he's like, pissed off, basically. He's pissed off because he's doing the work and he's getting underpaid. Yeah. And that's basically what happens with double brokering is somebody besides that customer and the logistics company, somebody else is getting shafted. And that kind of stinks for them because they're the ones doing all the work too.
Yeah. Is there any obviously if they show up and you're like, hey, the name on the truck, that's not the one that we're expecting. Yeah. But when you're going into these situations, how do you avoid it? Are there any red flags or anything that you can kind of source out that you'd be like, or is it just that company did that once and you don't use that company again? We
don't use that company again. And as a logistics company, for us, we have a whole, checklist of what we do. So, we have Saferware software, basically. And, there's different things that we can look at as a logistics company that we can show there's motor carrier numbers on every, you see them on the doors of the car. We look those up and then we look up the company information. Okay. So then if the company that we're working with has, they called me on a phone number, I'm going to look it up to make sure that that phone number matches, basically. Yeah. If it doesn't, I'm going to call and I'm going to be like, hey, do you guys have Roger working for your company, he said he's a dispatcher, and they're like, I don't know a Roger.
Yep.
I don't know what you're talking about. Then I know that it's double brokered and that carrier doesn't match.
So that's when you're talking to the guy actually driving or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're like, who's that?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, because this happens more than I want it to, a lot of the time they'll know that they're double brokering, and sometimes they're okay with it because they made a good profit.
Yep.
So sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm working for that company, and you're just like, come on, dude, like I know you're not.
Yeah.
So then I'm just, if that happens, I just like automatically email my customer immediately, and I'm just like, that if that truck shows up, turn him away.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send somebody else in for you.
I like the fact that you're like honest about it and you're like, hey, this happens. Because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of like companies in the logistics space that would just pretend that it's not happening
Yeah.
because they don't want to bother doing the work to figure it out.
Yeah.
Or potentially maybe there's somebody who's
Right.
doing this kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Right.
And then the biggest issue with it, besides the liability, is just the cost. Like, do you have a guess of typically how much extra cost it sends to the end consumer based on this, the shipper?
If you're hiring this
percentage
company,
maybe,
I would say like 30%. It's marked
30%
up 30%. Yeah,
Okay.
where you can save 20 to 30% on a shipping charge. You're getting again like shafted on the end, because if they're double brokering, they have to pay the other guy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's worth figuring it out and going through this. Some of the other things too, I know that we talked in another video about doing like an invoice audit. Is there anything that you can find in an actual invoice that would tip it off, or is it really just stuff that happens behind the scene?
Behind the scenes.
Okay.
It's more of like a logistical type thing.
Yeah. So on the screen, there'll be a video where we do an invoice audit. So we go through a made up invoice, but if you have a real invoice that you want to have a second set of eyes on, Laura's company will do that for free of charge. And in the description is a link where you can go sign up for an invoice audit, and no credit cards or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just look at the invoice and let them know
Yeah.
if it looks good, or there might be some things that are concerned and you might be paying too much. So we'll catch you in the next video.